deep in the darkest recesses of YouTube, there is a strange, backwards place. A place where video titles are half a paragraph long to fit in as many algorithm tags as possible, in order to maximize the chances of it becoming a viral monster for the under threes rampant surprise egg tablet mashing. Here were born the cursed fake Peppa Pig episodes. It's in this strange nightmare realm that YouTube got the majority of its views, and a big part of what Copper was made to stop. But without further ado, let's discuss the 6 nightmare fake Peppa Pig episodes. Just a note ahead that I'm going to state these titles exactly as I found them, so they might not make a whole lot of sense. In fact, probably not any sense. I'm not sure who or what made these messed up, broken videos, but I'll explore them as best I can. Hopefully this will at least give you a taste of just how messed up the dark underside of YouTube is, and just how good it is that we tried to keep this sickening garbage away from kids. Anyway, here we go. Number 6. Peppa Pig Dentist Kids Animation Fantasy and Nursery Rhymes Lyrics. Let's start with the infamous dentist episode. No, not the one where Peppa actually goes to the dentist. This is the notorious fake one that traumatized kids and was banned from YouTube. We start with Peppa and Mummy Pig visiting the dentist. Except, for some reason, the dentist is a giant, villainous-looking zombie pig with a big, pointy syringe, and get used to these. And for some reason, in a dental operation, he syringes Peppa's rear. Why? You may well notice a recurring pattern with these giant syringes as we progress further through this garbage. Ugh. And in probably the most disturbing scene, we get a full-on shot of Peppa's cavity as we watch the dentist pull his teeth out. Well, at least they're baby teeth. I should point out, if I actually turn the sound on, there's actual cries of what sounds like real children constantly. But to remain in good taste, let's just leave that off, shall we? Then Peppa goes to the ice cream shop, has a few scoops, winks at us, and that's the end. Well, that was horrifying and weird. But moving right along, we're next given an almost interesting short, where we discover just how fit and adventurous Daddy Pig truly is. In fact, he's like Indiana Jones' Mark Pig, as he nimbly dodges a giant gorilla's smashes, before Peppa kicks the gorilla's head in. Nice work, you two. I almost had a moment of investment in this flaming wastebasket of horror animation. Suddenly, just like that, we're zapped into a new Peppa segment. Except where we have zombie Peppas jumping on the bed. Then all 26 letters of the alphabet stated. Seriously? They clearly have the animation for regular Peppa Pig. Why go with zombie Peppa for telling the alphabet of all things? And then for some reason the Peppas go cyborg? Or maybe they're Iron Man costumes, it's hard to tell. Now you may be asking the logical question at this point. What am I looking at? To which I would say, I know, right? But I can somewhat explain these random elements of superheroes thrown into this concoction of nightmares. Frequently, tags of popular search phrases from kids will somehow get melded into these videos, often resulting in even more random, strange, blended up combinations of characters and themes. My best guess is the elements were put in to justify the title and YouTube tags. They probably hoped this would make the unfettered, colossal juggernaut YouTube algorithm pick up their videos as viral for the under 3 tablet mashers. Now to finish off, we get a bunch of zombie Peppas jumping on the bed, and they get injected by the zombie doctor every time they fall off the bed. Why? What does this have to do with anything Peppa Pig or kid related? And like many of these videos, it abruptly ends as though the algorithm ran out of nightmare fuel. And you know the crazy part? For the longest time, in 2017 particularly, these videos were being watched in the hundreds of millions of views, mostly by young children mashing their tablets when YouTube is used as a babysitter. Honestly, my heart goes out to any kids who are traumatized by this horse stump content. And for number 5, Peppa Pig English character episodes New Masher and the Bear Finger Family. These videos all share that same strange fixation on Peppa being jabbed with syringes. Why? Whatever this unknown entity that made these is, it's their obsession. And to this day, I have no idea what it has to do with kids. Regardless, this video demonstrates well the strange blender homunculi of all of YouTube's most tagged kids words. From the Hulk to Maleficent to Olaf to Masher and Bear and Finger Family, of course. Lucky for us, this one's pretty straightforward. we get to see Masha, who is responsible, of course, for the 2.9 billion view video Recipe for Disaster. Yes, that is billion with a B. 2.9 billion. What is wrong with this website? Anyway, this one's just mostly Masha hanging out with George, occasionally messing with him and feeding him hot chili peppers. Because, you know, why not? George later falls out of a tree, which of course, yep, you guessed it, results in the giant injection. Pepper puts makeup on the Hulk, and now I've got to stop watching this before my brain starts leaking out my ear. Number 4. Peppa Pig Crying in Prison Finger Family Nursery Rhymes Daddy Pig English Character Episodes. Well, with a title like that, how can we go wrong? Our story here is flimsy, broken, and barely makes do. But what else is new? But it's true, so we'll soldier through. What can I say? I'm a garbage poet, but I sink enough to know it. Anyway, Peppa finds a mountain of M&Ms, which promptly turns her giant. So giant that the ambulance has to come and, yep, you guessed it, once again, inject her with a giant needle. Fortunately, this fixes her right up. Hooray. I actually kind of want to see Peppa get out of this nightmare video alive. I'm certainly not going to argue the incredible value of vaccinations, but why this fixation on syringing a child all the time? Maybe they're just vaccinating up Peppa, which in case, good for them. Better a needle than her getting smallpox or polio, that's for sure. Though I think it's worth reminding kids that real injections aren't this massive and scary, and they won't be applied by a mutant zombie pig either. Probably a doctor or nurse. Anyway, the rest seems to be mostly made up of Pepper and Maleficent Pepper applying makeup. Luckily, Hulk Pig arrives, who immediately falls in love with Maleficent Pig. Well, good for them, I guess. Masha's in there too for a second, dancing around in all her single-framed glory. But the Peppa Pig Mafia breaks in and chases her down with knives and guns. I'm serious. Okay, to this Nightmare Fuel's credit, I had no idea that was about to happen. That genuinely got me by surprise. They catch Masha and she's crying in prison. Ha ha, there it is. Fortunately, it turns out Mummy Pig is actually Wonder Woman and saves Masha in an epic battle. With a day saved, this miserable monstrosity can finally come to an end. You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I genuinely miss Peppa Pig. And our good old stating the obvious English narrator. I hope to someday see you outside this nightmare, Peppa. And the third banned fake Peppa Pig episode is Peppa Pig Dog Fell and in Injecting Dr. Peppa Pig Funny Story. This one starts off as probably the most convincingly disguised nightmare video. Though to be fair, that's not really saying much. We get Peppa's obligatory snort, one of Peppa's friends falls off a seesaw, and you've probably guessed what this means. It's time for another giant injection, because apparently kids weren't afraid enough of needles as is. George then proceeds to get revenge by passing gas in the doctor's face. Well, at least he's cured. This is definitely one of those moments that makes me question my life decisions. To make many chuckle at irreverent videos is an honor, but this junk is truly, genuinely terrible. Oh, but don't you worry, this flaming trash can just gets better. You see, Mummy Pig is being rushed to the hospital as she's pregnant. Oh, congratulations, it's a giant green thing. Ugh. I think it's meant to be Peppa Deadpool, but don't quote me on that. If you're wondering why this nightmare has now jumped to pregnancies, well, let me try and explain. You see, for a time, one of the most powerful tags on the internet was Pregnant Elsa, particularly during the darkest days of Elsagate. So in these videos, the lovely Elsa will show up in every way, shape, and form pregnant. Good for her. This particular mishmash has quickly ended though, so let's keep this segment mercifully short, for both our sakes. And the second banned fake Peppa Pig episode is Peppa Pig English Episodes Crying Monster Bite Peppa Pig Spider-Man Frozen Elsa Nursery Rhymes. I can't make these titles up, they somehow just get more and more broken the deeper we dive. But hang on a minute, what's this? Animation with some semblance of originality? A story with some level of coherence? sometimes amidst a sea of dark, creepy, soulless, revolting animation, something not horrifying might occur. This Pepper has been reanimated into the creator's own personal, unique style. And frankly, at times I like this comic toon style better than the original Pepper animation, though admittedly that's not setting the bar very high. Let's call this Pepper Peeper. So Peeper has a magic light that can transform anything. She uses this and mostly spends the episode pranking her friends. Just look how much more expressive Peeper is than Pepper. You can tell Peeper actually means business and has an emotional range beyond woken from a coma. When she's happy, she actually looks happy and not dead-eyed. Anyway, rather than the usual minus 10 out of 10 stars I'd normally give these fake Peppa Pig videos, this video has earned a 1 out of 10 stars. Congratulations! Peppa Pig, you should be proud for being deemed not quite a toxic waste dump worthy of immediate incineration. And the #1 banned fake Peppa Pig episode is Peppa Pig eating pizza, a lot of candies, the Finger Family nursery rhymes lyrics parody, aka Peppa and George go to hell. Just what even is this? Death comes along to murder Peppa, and then apparently drags George away to become a satanic hellspawn? Peppa's decapitated, she grows bat wings, Maleficent Peppa appears with one of those weird human mouths. As my hero Sonic would say, we're in some deep Darfoo here. So our story today is Peppa and George are eating pizza. They fight over the last piece before falling off the bench in a bloody, gory mess. Then while they're sleeping, what appears to be Satan Pig arrives, and he promptly drags George to hell. Then again, maybe it's Peppa. I mean, it really does look like Satan is Peppa, but she's right there, so it's hard to tell. While George boils in hell, he screams and wails with his everly creepily real child cry. And we just sit here watching George boil in his satanic pot in hell for a bit. Then, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it turns out George Pig has turned into a satanic hellish minion. Now that George is a hellspawn minion, he's quietly returned to his room, where Satan Peppa now attempts to drag regular Peppa to hell. Are you managing to keep up? Because this is getting really weird. But then, in a moment of glory, apparently George becomes an angel and strikes down Satan with lightning from the sky. Apparently, the day is saved and badly animated fireworks begin. But deep within the village lies a sinister figure, a wizard of great evil and power ready to poison our heroes. In the next scene, Peppa's changed into a princess costume. You can probably guess by now this means princesses are among this strange mishmash blender of thing mixed into this algorithm mess. Being the brilliant student she is, Peppa swiftly eats the apple and dies. Then George kisses his sister and apparently they're fine because he's the prince now. Never mind. Okay, you will never guess what happens in this next scene. It's so random I think my brain may have just done a somersault. Peppa receives a dog for her birthday, but alas, a knife-wielding maniac leaps out and attacks Peppa. But the single animation dog we've known for 9 seconds jumps to Peppa's aid. Death arrives, ready to take Peppa's new dog. But Peppa sacrifices her brother and a coin to revive the mutt? What, did Peter write this? Soon, the evil Peppa Witch sets fire to the forest, starting a blazing inferno and kidnapping George. Fortunately, Peppa then turns into the Hulk, and Peppa just leaves. Can I just point out, Peppa is the worst sister ever here. First, she sacrifices her brother for a dog, and then she doesn't bother to save him. Then Peppa does her own makeup tutorial, because you better bet makeup tutorials are a tagline worth having. She puts makeup on Maleficent Peppa, who turns her into a spider. Fortunately, she turned back, then the police arrest Maleficent Pig Lady. At this point, all attempts at coherence and narrative have broken down. All rules of the universe mean nothing, and we're just getting a string of consciousness. Spider-Man Peppa Pig takes down Godzilla, only to be interrupted by the Finger Fun monster hand breaking through the ground. Then they begin a Finger Fun song, which is mercifully interrupted as this mishmash horrible creepy video abruptly ends. So what can we make of all this? Apart from that it's a good way to lose brain cells without mashing your head into a wall. Frankly, I'm just glad to see these videos away from YouTube. And frankly, good riddance to bad eggs. Despite the controversy and trouble it caused, I was always glad to see Copper made, because if Copper meant there was just one less of those YouTube channels that prey on kids, then personally, I felt the extra paperwork was worth it. Because of channels like that, or things like Elsagate, I want to see my niece and nephew stay far away from YouTube. I'd instead get them a Disney Plus, Amazon Kids, or Netflix Kids subscription. Because if the most popular YouTube kids content has taught me anything, it's that there is such higher quality, smarter, and more thoughtful content for them on streaming platforms outside of YouTube. Anyway, if you like, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.